Police officers of Reddit, what's the craziest situation you've been in? Definitely the time that an older, mentally ill woman tried to burn her house down because she believed that was the only way to disarm the atom bomb in her attic. I got her to walk with me to my car and get in the back by telling her it was the only place she'd be safe. When I got in and started driving, she started yelling that I couldn't take her to jail because she hadn't done anything wrong. I calmly informed her that we were going to the hospital, which prompted even louder yelling of, "I'm not crazy." I replied, "I don't think you're crazy." She screamed, "Then why are you taking me to the hospital?" I told her, "Well, you were next to that atom bomb, right? We gotta get you checked for radiation poisoning." Her eyes got wide and she said, "Oh shit. I didn't think about that, you better hurry." Showed up to a call once about a baby crying non-stop for hours and no sign of an adult being home. We went into the house and I followed the sound of the crying baby upstairs to find an 18-month-old with her arms duct taped to her crib. I undid the duct tape and it was obvious this was not the first time it had happened. I brought the child downstairs and outside. The mom was walking up the sidewalk of the housing unit and flipped shit on me. I handed the child off to a patrol and cuffed her. It was the most satisfying clicking of handcuffs I had ever heard. Edit, this happened when I was in the army as an MP. The father of the child was deployed at the time. From what I heard, he was granted permission to return home and take custody of the child. They got a divorce and I believe he won custody. I don't know what happened to her as far as a sentencing or jail time. Attended a structural fire in a downtown high-rise. Was tasked with evacuating local residents in case the building collapsed. Third house I went to, the guy answers in a full bunny suit with gas mask propped up in his head. English wasn't his first language, and as I was trying to communicate that he needed to evacuate, it became clear he was running a meth lab inside. Arrested Asian Walter White, and then had to sit in the shadow of the structure fire keeping eyes on the house while waiting for clear, clandestine lab team to show up. In that time fire trucks basically surrounded my vehicle so I couldn't move it, even after clear team moved in. Walter had his lawyer call in my PC, and it was about 10 hours before we could head back to cells. I've never had to piss so badly in my life. Did a stop on a pretty obvious dope car. Driver is tweaking on meth. Passenger also tweaking and is a female that weighs 95 pounds while being 5 feet 8 inches or so. She looked like a concentration camp victim. She's offering to provide oral services in exchange for her release. Obviously I decline. Guy in the back appears to be asleep. I get his ID from the tweaking driver as my backup arrives. We get all three out, I can see needles all over the car. The guy in the back wakes up and gets out. Dispatch gives us returns, letting us know the back passenger has a parole violation. He was released early from prison for felon in possession of a firearm. The dispatcher was supposed to warn us before giving the return out loud over the radio but didn't in this case. Old dude stands up and reaches in his waistband. I see this happening in slow motion and realize it's about to get real. My partner swings from around the other side of the vehicle where he was talking to one of the other suspects. I start to yell gun in time for my partner to straight up line back at this dude, which we got into cuffs. Had a .45 in the waistband. I went home and hugged my son, who was 1 at the time. Edit, was out at a family function. I am about to start replying to all the messages. Thank you. Second edit, I have a few more good ones if anyone cares to hear them. Also, I don't work patrol anymore. I'm a detective with my agency now. I posted another story below. Thanks for the positive words. 99% of cops are out there every day doing honest work to keep you safe. I got a lot of messages asking for more, so here is another story. I'm on midnight shift. I work in a small town, under 30k people, with a county of about 200k people. My beat is a suburb. We get a shots fired call. Usually these are an old lady who hears something she thinks is a gunshot but we can never locate the source and go back in service. This was different. I could hear the stress in the dispatcher's voice as she told me it was an open line call. This means the caller was still on the phone giving information in real time. The caller was yelling into the phone so loudly it was bleeding over into the dispatcher's mic when she keyed up, and I could hear the screaming. Me and 3 other officers haul ass to this apartment complex. It's a single-story unit shaped like a horseshoe with a big open courtyard. We start making our way to the complex, having parked a bit away from the suspect house. It's about 2 a.m. on a weekday and it's dead quiet. I don't hear shit. I'm jumping bushes and crossing lawns with my department rifle on me while my partners are moving parallel to me. We get to the edge of the complex and stack up. We can hear the yelling. The door to one of the apartments opens and the screaming subjects start to spill out. We don't know who is who, so we can out with rifles and handguns drawn, giving commands for everyone to show hands and drop to their knees. Everyone complies. I give cover to the 3 other units who start handcuffing and checking people for weapons. No gun so far. These people tell us the people who fired shots already left in a car, which they describe. We go to clear the apartment when a Hispanic male comes out covered in blood. He was ghost white from the blood loss. He is clutching his left arm, which I can see has been cut to the bone from elbow to wrist, and he has arterial spurt. I realize he is minutes from death and apply a tourniquet that everyone that works in this area carries on their belt. This guy loses consciousness. We clear the apartment quickly to make sure there are no unseen threats and then radio for EMS and fire to enter. The surgeon said 2 minutes later with that tourniquet and the guy would have bled to death. We find out that the whole thing was a drug deal gone bad and the sellers tried to take the money and split. Amazingly, no one was shot. I spent the rest of the shift searching for the shitheads and writing reports. The suspects drove 1,800 miles to Oregon where they were arrested. Side note about adrenaline, it's awesome. You don't feel fatigue or pain sometimes. It can be addictive. Dad tells the story of a guy he knew who kept getting caught for writing bad checks. He was such a big guy he wouldn't fit in the police car, so they would just meet him at the magistrate office and write him tickets. I know, some trust, but a year or so after this kept happening, he got a call that there was a domestic dispute at the house. So they rush over there and he's got an axe in his hand sitting on the front porch all bloody. They approach and tell him to put the axe down, which he doesn't, proceeded to tell them that his wife is in the bathtub, or at least her head is. But guy was completely open and cooperative, didn't run or anything. Asked if he could meet them at the magistrate office and Dad was like, yeah nah dog, you're gonna have to get in the car this time. First time my brother arrested someone was really funny. He and his training officer were working the graveyard shift and got a call for suspicious activity at a house. They arrive and the homeowner says there is someone sneaking around his house that shouldn't be there. So they start looking around with their flashlights. Grass is really overgrown in the backyard and my brother noticed one of those Fisher-Price kids car, yellow and red plastic car, moving on its own. They found their guy, naked and high AF, trying to hide under the kid's toy and crawl away. Training officer says, well, he's yours rookie, had my brother cuff him. Guy didn't want to go to jail and put up a naked fight, and take the guy to jail. Not a cop, but a cop friend of mine in SC Washington, D.C. He got a domestic disturbance call and arrived to a calm scene. The husband explained he and his wife had been arguing, and that she had gone over the top, but they were both fine now. The wife confirmed the story, but stated she didn't want the husband back in the house that night. My friend asked if the husband had a place to go, and he agreed to go to his mother's house for the night. The husband left, then my friend and his partner left soon after. About an hour later, they get a call back to the same house. When they get there, the husband is in the kitchen dead. The wife explains that right after the police left, her husband came back and resumed arguing with her. He got in her face and she stabbed in the neck with a chicken bone, hitting his carotid artery. While serving in South Korea, my team was on patrol in the local drinking village when we heard someone drunkenly singing the US national anthem. At a loss for where this individual was, we finally looked up and there he was, tightrope walking on the ledge of a building 3 stories up. This is when precision of language is of vital importance, especially when dealing with a drunk. The sergeant on scene said, "Hey, come down here." The drunkard said, "On my way," and proceeded to step off. Under the impression I was about to witness my first death, I was in shock. Through some bit of weird luck science, he glanced the hood of a slightly misted Daewoo truck and slid down to the ground. We ran over to him and he said, "Hey guys, how's it going?" He had open fractures on both femurs and after some makeshift splinting and controlling the bleeding, he was transported to the nearest hospital. Soju is a hell of a thing. My dad usually relates to when people ask. 1. Staking out one of LA's homeless killers, the Skid Row stabber. This one specifically targeted men who appeared to be homeless. So my dad was part of a task force that would assign one officer a night to be the bait. He remembers tearing up his clothes, putting them on, rolling around in the dirt, then on the street, and finally pouring a cheap bottle of whiskey out on them. He never washed this outfit so that it just got progressively nastier while he was on the task force. He would then lie down in one of the killer's known preferred areas, with his backup revolver, because of its size, underneath his body. He said he did actually manage to fall asleep a couple times, but mostly, even knowing there were a handful of nearby officers hidden and waiting for him to start screaming, he was too scared to do anything but lie there and shiver. 2. When he was a supervisor, one of LA's endless car pursuits entered his division's territory. His officers joined the chase, and then entered a new division as it kept going. He knew the supervisor of that division's patrol, so he hopped in a car to head over and help coordinate the chase. By the time he got there, the chase had turned to a foot chase. He radioed the other supervisor to meet him in the station parking lot as he listened to officers calling out updates on location. He had a gut feeling, and as he and the supervisor listened, started walking towards one of the walls. Sure enough, the suspect, completely lost, hopped over the fence. Literally caught the guy in my arms as he came over,